Welcome to a Varsity House podcast with your host Shaun Crawford and co-host Carl Jones. On this episode, again, we're here to bring you, news and sports and update you on current sports. And so, something that we both enjoy talking about, something we both enjoy watching and also being a part of. So we felt just want to continue to make our voices known within the space and give out our opinions. And we hope that last week you enjoyed our conversation and share some comments and giving your own piece and thoughts to some things that we mentioned. And so obviously it was a huge weekend this weekend for football, playoff football, NFL. Now that college is out of the way, we got Georgia, obviously the unanimous champions. It was no decisions there. Some big news in college football, this past week was C.J. Stroud, making this decision to go to the NFL. But other than that, there wasn't, much going on in college football. So with that being said, we want to talk about the NFL wildcard weekend. And so what a playoff weekend it was. Something I do want to talk about, how there may be blowouts in college football. There wasn't, some games might have looked like a blowout at first, but even, the Seattle 49ers game kind of, didn't end that close, but still was competitive, through the first half and also the first three quarters. And then maybe last night against the Cowboys and Bucks, then, it was sort of a blowout. But all in all, I thought it was a great weekend. It was some teams that I didn't expect to win, maybe like the Giants, the Jags, who came out and were down and then, came back and won. But thought it was a great overall weekend for, NFL football, for playoff football, just to give us a little taste what to expect, going forward. So, Carl, any thoughts from your end?
It gave you whatever you wanted. I mean, Brock Purdy, first year starter. I think it's like his fifth game, I believe, starting at this point. 4 touchdowns in his playoff debut. What the hell? I know he got the Monstars around him, but still, shout out to him for that performance he put on. Jags coming back from 27-0. I was watching the game live, and it was kind of unique how they went down 27-0 because it wasn't like the Chargers were just dominating them. It was Asante Samuel doing his thing. But, I mean, the Chargers weren't moving the ball well at all. And once they got that touchdown before half, I feel like everyone kind of had that, is the Chargers about to Charger right now? Like, uh-oh. And, Trevor Lawrence lived up to the billing as the number one overall pick, balled out in that second half, and there's nothing really the Chargers can do at that point. How about even the Dolphins? Shout out to what they did. I mean, I know they came up short against the Bills, but nobody, including myself, had any faith in them. I believe when the Bills scored the opening touchdown or something like that, I'm like, oh, over with. Put the go to your FanDuels and your DK, put it on the Bills minus 30. This is about to get ugly. And the Dolphins competed with a battered up offensive line, a third string quarterback on the road. I think Hill and Waller were both banging up coming into the game. Their secondary was obliterated. And yet it was a one-possession game. So, I mean, shout out to the Dolphins. The weekend was phenomenal when it came to the NFL. And hopefully this upcoming weekend gives us the same.
Mm-hmm. That's something, interesting. I know, last week we talked about how the difference between college kids being able to, face adversity and being able to come back, when they're down maybe, 2 or 3 possessions. And so you see that this weekend. You talk about Trevor Lawrence, first-round pick. They were down. I don't remember the exact number, but they were down, I know, more than 3 scores. And so, having to regroup as an entire unit, as an entire team, this is the playoffs. A lot of people didn't expect the Jags to even be there. And so, you're facing adversity, the outside noise of, wow, are we really supposed to be here? And then that starts to sink in. But obviously you mentioned last week, NFL players are, more mature. Able to bounce back against adversity and those things like that. And it showed this weekend. So kind of touch on that a little bit too.
I mean, you saw it. And I think the one thing with Trevor Lawrence, it's been apparent throughout his whole career, played against him twice. And I don't know the exact numbers off the top of my head, but I guarantee you his stats against the rest of the country against Syracuse is just 2 totally different numbers. He, for some reason, just turned the ball over against Hughes, didn't play his A+ performance, right? But every single drive, he would still go out there slinging it, after an interception, it didn't matter. He would still try to beat Trevor the next drive. And it was so apparent in that game. 4 picks and a half? I don't care who you are. That's taking a toll on your mental, right? And it's the biggest game of your career. This isn't a regular season game where you're all right, whatever, I got the jitters out the way, let's rock. Like, no, this is a playoff game. He got people's families at stake around him at the crib, and he bounced back from 4, not 1, not 2, but 4 interceptions. That's unheard of. I believe it was an NFL record to throw 4 playoff picks in one half.
Yeah.
So for him to bounce back like that says a lot about who he is, and also the team around him, that no one was really bitching at him or going crazy at him. I'm sure the entire time everyone had faith, even though it really wasn't a lot of it to be had. But, I mean, they did their best to rally around him, which says a lot about not just him, but everyone around him, which helps about getting a head coach like Doug Peterson, who everyone talks about as being a leader and mature and all that with his tenure with the Eagles. And clearly the Jags didn't have a leader at the helm last year. This year they do, and you can see the results of that with that comeback playoff run.
Mm-hmm. And then you talk about the next day, you look at the Dolphins and the Bills game. Kind of opposite. You see Josh Allen get off to a great start. You see the Bills get off to a great start, go up. And then, he starts to have some turnovers. He starts to, give the ball away. But that's in normal Josh Allen fashion, throwing it deep, taking risks, but that's what he does. He takes chances and he makes plays. But I say the opposite is because, obviously they were the team that was favored to win the game. They were playing great. They were up 3 possessions and things like that. And then the Dolphins start to march back. And so now you're on the side of like, oh, we have we're expected to win the Super Bowl. We're supposed to blow this team out. They are on their 3rd string quarterback, and then they come out and take the lead, and so having to face that, I'm sure was, very challenging. And, for you, someone who covers the Bills, who've watched them all season and obviously, paid close attention this past weekend, what were your thoughts, going through that game, when the Dolphins finally took the lead? Obviously, it wasn't, the Dolphins weren't moving the ball crazy. It was just they were getting in a great field position from the turnovers and things like that. But, talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I think it kind of comes back to the point that we've talked about this for years, like before even getting to the collegiate level. NFL players get paid too. Like, it doesn't matter, at the end of the day, I know that you might be better, statistically and all that stuff. Your Madden rating might be much better than the player across from you, right? But at the end of the day, that dude across from you gets paid too. And I believe Shaq Lawson said that earlier in the week, prepping for the Dolphins, talking about facing a Skylar Thompson. He goes, look, anybody who's on that field across from me, I got the utmost respect for, because that man gets paid handsomely to go play this game. So I got to respect him as if that was Tua, right? And it showed. I mean, Skylar Thompson, look, we can say what we want about Tua and how, like, the Dolphins missed him. He wasn't the reason they lost. I mean, there was a bunch of drops that the Dolphins had, particularly Waddle, that I know that would have changed that game early in the game. But Skylar Thompson played his heart out, man. He was taking shots. He was throwing the ball accurately down the field at times. It was a little concerning from the Bills' perspective, because Skylar Thompson is going to be the worst quarterback you play the rest of the way. And if you're going to allow them to, obviously not move the ball great, because, the Dolphins didn't do that. But if you're going to allow him to, I believe, put up 24 points, I know because one of them was the pick 6 or the fumble 6, that's a little concerning from a Bills perspective. So at the end of the day, it's survive and advance this time of year. I get, like, who cares? Like, who's going to – if you win the Super Bowl in February, who gives a damn what the hell you did against the Dolphins in the wild card round? Having said that, though, covering the team, it was a different dynamic. The Bills have kind of, like, won like this over the past 2 months, but not against a team with a 3rd-string quarterback. And that's where, from my perspective, I was like, that ain't cute.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. And so that brings us to the next point. We want to talk about, what winners impressed us over the weekend. And so obviously there were a number of games, and definitely want to, get into, what teams I thought played well, what teams Carl thought played well. But, starting off for me, I was very impressed by the Cowboys Monday night. I just going off to after the last season, or after the last game of the regular season, they laid an egg, lost the game and things like that in Cowboys fashion. And so I just thought, playing against Tom Brady, playing against the Bucs, the Bucs defense was finally healthy, coming into this game. They were on the road as well. So I was thinking, like, okay, maybe the Cowboys, will choke, they'll lose this game. But they came out on, firing on all cylinders. I was very impressed by them. I was very impressed by Dak slinging it around into multiple receivers, not relying on, CD. He tried to get CD early, but there were some drops and things like that, but able to use, the other guys as well on the unit and just running the ball. Great defense. Michael Parsons is, out of this world. So he did his thing. And so just, obviously it's always, you hate to bet against Brady in the playoffs. And so, I'm one of those guys, and so I was definitely just very impressed by what the Cowboys did, how they handled them convincingly, and then also I don't know what the Bucs are doing over there, to be honest. So we'll that was also something crazy to see, just what Brady going through. Obviously, I don't think any of us ever seen him play like that, but I'm sure it has to do with coaching. I'm sure it's just not Brady, or just not one thing you can point at, but it was kind of like that all year. And so I'm very impressed by the Cowboys. I think the only thing they need to do for next week is just find a new kicker. Which I'm sure they probably got Buddy already out of there, or he's been replaced, either way. But that's the only thing that I say that the Cowboys got to fix, go heading into the 49ers. So, Carl, after this wild card weekend, what team that won impressed you the most?
The kicker did not impress me, but who impressed me the most, staying in the NFC East, was the G-Men. I mean, I know it's like a reoccurring theme the entire year about the Giants. Like, wow, they keep shocking us and surprising us. And I know out of all the playoff teams, the Vikings were probably the one where we were like, are they really as good as what their seeding are? And the Giants took it to them. I mean, Daniel Jones looked like a top 5 pick. I mean, he looked like the DJ out of Duke. And 300-something, I think 370-something total yards of offense. He was running around like he was Mike Vick, slinging it around like he was Brady. Hyperbole, guys. But, I mean, 2 touchdowns. Saquon had 100 total yards, moving it up and down the field. And look, I know the Vikings defense isn't great, but it's playoff football. You just got to get a dub by any means necessary. This is the same Giants team that I believe their preseason over-under wins was 7.5. They got 9. This is the same Giants team that I believe no one thought was going to be here. Actually, I know no one thought they were going to be here. Brian Dable trying to take over this team with not a lot of talent, right? I mean, with all due respect to their offensive weapons, it's not the greatest. And their best receiver on Sunday was Isaiah Hodgins, who's on the Bills practice squad in October. So that goes to show you just like the type of culture that they got over there, where it's next man up. It doesn't matter who's in the lineup. We're going to find a way to produce. Darius Slayton is balled out time after time. I believe on third down, DJ was finding him. And then shout out to the Giants defense. Justin Jefferson held to, I believe, 47 yards. I mean, that's probably arguably the best receiver in the game. Everybody and their mama know Kirk Cousins trying to go to him, and they had a hell of a game plan to take him away, too. Sometimes, I believe on that last play, 3 people on Jettas daring him to go find someone else. And you see what happened. Kirk Cousins checked it down on a 2-yard route on like 4th and 8. That's how, like, rattled they got. So, I mean, the G-Men, I got to be impressed by that. No one expected them to be there on the road. I know Minnesota not an easy place to play, and they went ahead and did it. I mean, shout out to New York for that. Mm-hmm.
And now we get to what teams didn't impress you. What winning team didn't impress you this weekend? Obviously, like we mentioned, a lot of teams fought back, and fought some adversity to come back and win some games. Also, we talk about the games that are the teams that won convincingly, the Niners and the Cowboys. And so, were there any teams that didn't impress you that ended up winning the game?
Yeah, the Bengals. And they won. I know division games are never easy. Third time. Both teams have seen each other a lot, so it's not really nothing that you can do to shock the other team. Having said that, though, that Ravens offense has struggled without Lamar. I believe 17 points were the most they had scored without Lamar. And I know they only put up 17 against the Bengals, but they were on the doorstep of at least getting 20 before the Tyler Huntley fumble at the goal line where Sam Hubbard cribbed. Yeah, I know Harbaugh really ain't defend his man too much on that one if you watch that, what he said post-game. But they didn't impress me. And I know a big reason why is because they've lost 3 starting offensive linemen in 2 weeks, which that's rough. And now they're back to where they were last year in the postseason, where they were down all those offensive linemen, and Joe Burrow was just fighting for his life. I know that the Ravens have a phenomenal defense. Kyle Hamilton, your boy, has been balling out the past 2 months. Had a huge forced fumble in the game. Lit a dude up right on the sideline. Helmet right on the ball. So that defense is legit. But if you're the Bengals' Super Bowl aspirations, man, you expect to play a little bit better than that. 8.5-point favorites at the crib. I didn't like what I saw, and now you got to go on the road against the Bills. I know the Bills present different challenges than the Ravens, but that wasn't all too, I guess, optimistic when you see the things that concern you about the Bengals. I don't see that getting any better as the playoffs go on.
Yeah, for me, it was, obviously it was a tough call. The Bengals won definitely, but I guess I would say Jags. It's tough because it is the Jags, so it's like you don't really expect too much. But just the fashion that they came out in, obviously it was Trevor's first playoff experience and things like that after and then first time head coach as well. Taking them to the playoffs, and so it was a lot of a lot of things at stake, and maybe a lot of things against them. They didn't have that comfortability like within the playoffs and things like that. And so if I had to choose one, I would just say the Jags. And it wasn't just a reason. It was just an ugly game. I'm glad they got the win. They got the Chiefs this weekend, so if they start like that, they probably Andy Reid and Pat, I don't think they're gonna let Trevor Lawrence come back like that. But I would just take the Jags in the fashion they won. You can't throw 4 interceptions in the first half and expect to go far and win the game especially. And so, but I do love that they battled through it, that they fought through adversity. Maybe the Chargers need to take a look within their organization, as far as like Brandon Staley and just maybe some other calls that they have, because that team is too talented to be getting bounced in the first round. I know they lost, Mike Williams in the last regular season, last game of the regular season, unnecessary injury, but it's tough. And so I just think, the Jags got an ugly win. I say, they didn't impress me just because they were playing, the Chargers, who's loaded, but obviously they have some issues that they need to resolve themselves. And then also because if the Jags come in and play anything close to what they played like this past weekend on Saturday, it's over with. We may as well change the channel. On that one, you can definitely change the channel because they will not be coming back. And if they do come back, then this will be the first time that I'll be exposed for being completely wrong. So screw it. But I'm definitely excited for it. We'll see what's going on. But, in other news, obviously, the most recent game was the Cowboys and the Bucks. And so a lot of talk about Brady and, what he's doing going forward. And so they made some firings this morning, I believe. And so, Tom Brady is the GOAT. You don't want to go up there and criticize the man because he didn't have his best game. He short-armed some throws fell short, things like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's Brady. I'm gonna feel like he always, if he's stepping on the field and he's your starting quarterback, he's always gonna have a chance to win the game, and you're always gonna have a chance to win the game. And so, I think outside of as long as we're talking about just on the field stuff, keep his personal life out of it. I think he looks healthy. Maybe I don't know, maybe a little better offensive line just to give him a little bit more time. The receivers that he has in Tampa are amazing. Running backs he have are pretty good as well. So we'll see. I think the only thing that changed in the offseason was coaching. So I think they figured that thing out there, but I do think he's still capable of playing this game at a high level if he wants to play this game if he wants to continue to play this game. So that's my take on Brady. We'll see. Moving forward, what he wants to do, even if he fake retires again and comes back. But he seemed like he's it's crazy because when Brady lose, he don't like he I don't think he wants an end on a loss. So. I see him coming back. I definitely see him coming back. With who? I don't know. I would love to see him in Tampa again because I think he has the weapons in Tampa. Not a lot of people have those weapons. But we'll see.
Tom Brady's psychotic. All right, so he definitely gonna try to figure out a way to play next year because he ain't trying to end on that note. Like he insane. Like Tom Brady just built. That's what makes him so great, right? It just bro's and the stories that you hear about him off the field in terms of how he prepares for a game. Bro's different. That's what makes the greats, right? But if he is gonna play, I'm gonna just throw out 2 destinations and just spitball and just like off the cuff, like all right, this is where he can end up. I think Vegas would be kind of cool. I mean, I know Derek Carr. They're moving on from Derek Carr. And they're going to have an opening there. They're not going to want to take a rookie quarterback on Devontae Adams, who is ready to win right now. Darren Waller, Hunter Renfrow. That offense is ready to build to win right now. Bringing in a rookie is not making DA happy. All right. So Brady there's already been talks that Dana White tried to get him 2 years ago, right? So there's some history there. So that'll be kind of cool. Downside, you are in a division with Mahomes, but if you're a competitor, who cares about that? And another destination, this is a long shot, but I'm just thinking about what Brady was attracted to before we brought him to Tampa, and I can see it maybe happening again. The Jets. Look, the Jets' defense is stacked. I watched it twice up close against the Bills. That defense is ready, Super Bowl caliber right now. And I know New York cold. He been in the South. He cool. He cool, calm, and collected in that hot weather. I don't blame him. But you got Garrett Wilson, you got Elijah Moore, you got Breece Hall coming off of ACL next year. The offensive line was decimated by injuries. You got Becton coming back, Elijah Vera Tucker, another first-round pick. Like, they got some guys. Now, they all young. They're all real young. But if Brady want to come back to a team where he can just pop in, free agent, don't got to trade for him, this would be a cool little spot because they definitely got the weapons to go from, I believe, a 7-win team to a playoff team overnight. Because, I mean, the only thing that held back the Jets this year was just quarterback play, if we're going to be real here. Like, they just didn't get that adequate play out of that position. Look, Brady, I know you like the warm weather. I don't blame you. I'm trying to go down there, too. Having said that, because Crawford looking comfortable down there in Miami. He looked real good, glowing and all. But if Brady want to leave that glow and go back up to the Northeast, man, New York, a hell of a city to do it.
Mm-hmm. That'll be interesting, too, because they were one game away from getting in. So now the Jets got some hungry dudes too. The defense is hungry. They got guys who want to make plays. You talked about Elijah Moore. You talked about Breece Hall. Those are 2 dudes who know how to make plays and want to make plays. And so that'll definitely be an interesting destination. It'll also be interesting to see what the Dolphins do. Not saying that they'll move on from Tua, but who knows? I think, with a little bit of, I know they lost 5 in a row. So with a little bit of, better quarterback play, but it's also interesting to see what Tua wants to do because he had 1 brutal, concussion this year. And then he finished the year. He didn't finish the year on the field because of another concussion. So interesting to see what he wants to do, with his career moving forward. But we have, more playoff games this weekend. So divisional rounds. And we want to talk about all those games, what game sticks out to us, what game we're most excited for and stuff like that. But I'll first start off with, the game that I'm least interested in, I'll start off with that is the Jags and the Chiefs. Just because I think it'll be one-sided, and I hope I'm wrong. I'll definitely be sitting there at 4:30 watching that game, but the other 3 games, I'm glued to the TV for. Giants versus Eagles. You got the Cowboys versus the Niners, and you got the Bengals versus the Bills. So I couldn't give you which game I'm most excited for because I think there's a piece in each game that I'm interested, very interested about, like the Bengals and Bills. Like that's the rematch from the game that didn't happen. You got all the receivers that the Bengals got versus the Bills DBs. You got the Bills receivers versus the Bengals DBs. So Allen versus Burrow, all those things that that you look forward to. And then the Giants and Eagles, I think we just gonna see who more physical.
That's a game. Look, just close your eyes and just turn the TV up to 100, and it's just gonna sound like football. It's just gonna sound real physical out there. That's that game.
Yeah, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested to see that one. That's gonna be a great game for sure. And then the Cowboys and Niners, again. I hope if the Cowboys show up like they did this past weekend, I think it'll be a great game. But the Niners are very physical. Carl mentioned earlier they got the Monstars. They got Debo, McCaffrey, Ayuk, Kittle. With fullback even tough. Like they got so many weapons on their team. So I think that game would be crazy. But if I can't even if I had to pick one though, it'll probably be Bengals and Bills, just because I want to see that hype that we didn't get to see at the end of the season. I want to see Allen and Burrow go out there and sling for combined 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, all just crazy things. So, Carl, what about you on your end?
Obviously, I'm a little biased. I cover the Bills, so that's gonna be dope to see. I mean, remember how that game started? That game was Bengals ran down the field, scored. Bills got it down to the red zone, kicked the field goal. Bengals is moving. So that game will be a track meet, right? So if I take my biases aside, I think that Niners-Cowboys game is going to be fun. Obviously, the on-the-field product is going to be great. You got a lot of stars and all-pros on both sides. But I'm just interested from just like a younger dude perspective. This rivalry is much older than us. Like, this rivalry is some real 80s, 90s old head. Like, this week, all the old heads is going to be on TV arguing about, back in my day, Jerry Rice wasn't on, Michael Irvin and D. Like that's really what this rivalry is. They played 9 times in the playoffs. Like, this is like, when you think of NFL playoff football as like a 50, 60-year-old man, you think of this game. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested to see this one because, I mean, for our generation, I don't know what you say, like Steelers-Ravens is that. Like, I don't know what you would point to that playoff game. But for that generation, whoever won this game was going on to the Super Bowl, like 8 times out of 9. Like, so that's why I'm interested. Obviously, the on-the-field product could be great. I'm sure the Cowboys, you hope they will show up. The 2 teams played last year in the postseason and ended on Dak Prescott forgetting how the clock works. But just, I think of my pops, he hates the Cowboys. I think of other people who love the Cowboys, this is what they grew up on. And I'm sure First Take is going to be amazing. I'm sure Undisputed, like all of that stuff. Like, I just can't wait for the build up for the narratives around this game.
Definitely. So make sure this weekend you glued to the TV. Saturday and Sunday, both slated for great divisional round games. Again, we got the Jags versus Chiefs. And we got the Giants versus the Eagles on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we have the Bengals versus the Bills and Cowboys versus the Niners. Cowboys always get that prime time slate, bro. If there was one team,
America's team.
If there was one team that you wanted to be seen, you gotta play on the Cowboys because it's every week they get the best time slot and everything. Even though every year they always seem to fall short, but. Being some Cleveland guys, we feel like we have to include a Cleveland segment in here when we want to talk Cavs a little bit. We want to definitely touch on the Browns. Big news this week. Browns hired a defensive coordinator, Jim Schwartz, who's well respected, around the league. And also he comes from that Belichick regime. So, there's a lot of buzz on social media right now, a lot of buzz on Twitter saying like the team will be, with that hire, the team will be focused, heavily on the defensive line. And so obviously if you watch the Browns this past year, you can see that, especially the interior line needed some help. And so I was watching a quote this morning, and they asked him what was one thing he learned from Belichick, coaching under him and, just being with him on his journey. And he said preparation. And so I feel like that sticks out a lot, if you want to talk about the Browns defense to where, there were times in the media where Myles Garrett said, what did he say? He said,
he's about running into a wall or a dog or something.
He said the team's fired up. He said they're ready to run through a wall, but they're running in the wrong direction. So I think that has to go with preparation. But then also, there was some miscommunications on the back end. That Jets game when they gave up that bomb late in the game, miscommunication. So I think if he's preaching preparation and D-line, interior D-line is going to be a focus like before. He's coached Albert Hainsworth, he's coached Ndamukong Suh, Marcel Darius, Fletcher Cox. He's coached all these type of interior D linemen, so he knows what he's doing on that end, and so we'll see what happens there. But Carl, any take from that hire or anything else the Browns did this offseason so far?
Yeah, Just did a quick peruse. Once I found out that he was the Browns DC, I'll learn more about it as the offseason goes on when you find out more of his tendencies. Did hear that he loves the defensive line, which is great to hear as a Browns fan. Wasn't our best unit this year. But I did see what I like to see, and as a DB, I'm sure you'll appreciate this. He's had, I believe, 7 seasons in the top 10 in takeaways, which is huge. And, like, obviously, and on the back end, when you play that position, you just preach getting the ball out, just getting the ball to the other side of the ball. And with the offense, I think the Browns can have next season. More opportunities for that is great. He was the DC for the Eagles' most recent Super Bowl, actually their only Super Bowl win. So that's also encouraging to see that he has that championship pedigree to him. I know that his tenure with the Lions wasn't great, but he was a head coach then. We don't need a head coach. We need a DC. And he's clearly been great at that. I'm excited for him. He seems like a grown-up, which I think helps out this younger team that the Browns have. I'm not saying that we've had, like, maturity issues, but definitely kind of offsets, some of maybe the more, like, rah-rah things the young guys bring. You got an even-keel, respected older head who can provide that perspective as well. Obviously, as a Browns fan, I've been excited about just about anything over the past 15 years of my life, but this one seems a little different. Like, this one seems he has the championship pedigree. He has the background to match it up as well. The Browns' defense is talented. Just you hope that, guys aren't running into the wrong wall. They're running in the right direction, as Myles Garrett alluded to. And this everyone's on the same page because there was too many times this year where guys were running scot-free and we're just too talented, especially in the back seven, for that to happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, definitely. I think it'll be. I mean, we say this every year. High expectations, but I think they're starting it off right. We'll see what additions they bring in this season. Also, with the draft coming up later this spring, we'll see what they do there. But I think it's obviously pretty early. Guys probably aren't even thinking about next season right now. They in Cabo. They in Puerto Rico, they wherever they want, relaxing, recovering, those, which is needed, after a tough, full 17 game season, definitely is needed. And so, but, off to the right start, fixing, it seems like they're fixing the problems that, were at hand, interior D line and, preparation and things of that nature. And so getting someone in there, I saw today, they said you're either going to love him or you hate him. Like he doesn't take any BS. You mentioned he's like a grown man. So I think, this unit, this organization, the team for sure needs that, and so definitely excited for that move there. And so now on to the Cavs. The Cavs are sitting 5th in the East right now. I think it's solid. Obviously we had some new additions this year. Still a young team. I think, All-Star break coming up February 19th. So we're legit like almost a month away from that. Hopefully we could get, a couple guys in there this year, and, like we did a year ago. But Cavs recently just beat the Pelicans by 10 at home. And so just been a fun team, especially watching this team at home. Like, you had the 71-point win. That was at home. You had to win against the Celtics. That was at home. Win against the Sixers at home. This team is just, it's a young team. So, but I think we're playing our tails off each and every game. It's a learning curve for sure. But also want to point out like a stat that I've seen, with DG, who had an amazing game yesterday. He went 30, 11, and 6. So when you got a guy like that could give you 30 one night, if Donovan's having an off night, I think Donovan had 11. So when you got two guys on the court that could, put up 30 if the other one's not, hitting, or if they could go 20 and 20, whatever it may be, 25, 25, whatever it may be, or you get that 71 point performance from Donovan. Hey, I think we're all good, and as long as you got Mobley and Allen playing some defense, and I think we got a shot to compete with any team in the league. And so, wanted to point out some stats on DG. I know he's young, still young in his career, but just very promising. Averaging 26, at home versus 16 on the road. Obviously, big numbers like that is. You see that in young guys. I feel like you see that in young guys for sure. 8 assists at home versus 7 on the road. Not a big jump, not a big difference there. But you see that point differential, and that maybe just be confidence. That might just be like him wanting to be a more in a facilitating role. on the road, getting his other guys, trying to get his other guys involved before he tries to take over late in the game, things like that. But interesting stat line that I wanted to point out, because I do think this team's rolling, this team's feeling it. They also got a game versus the Grizzlies coming up, but then also Warriors on Friday. So well, I think this and then the Bucks the next, and then the Bucks the next day. So they got the Grizzlies, the Warriors, and the Bucks this week. So we'll see. We'll see how this week goes. We'll see how they respond, especially because I think after this week we'll see. We'll get a pretty good glimpse at what's to come for this team against some of the league's top teams.
Yeah, I mean, they're fifth in the East right now, which sounds about right. I mean, you got the Celtics ahead of you. You got the Sixers, Bucks, and the Nets, who have, by the way, been balling out the past month or so once they've gotten everyone back on the court. But, yeah, that sounds about right. And we're only a half game back of the 2 seed. So this thing can clearly, as you alluded to in this week, things can change real quick and where we go in the standings, up or down. But I like what I've seen out of the guys. We're really, really young, which I know that you can't – like people like this instant microwave society where, oh, man, on paper, Mobley, he looked great last year. He'll be an all-star this year. Jared Allen's going to take his game to the next level. DG's going to be Steph Curry now. And the progression isn't linear. It's like with anything in life. It's going to take time. There's going to be bumps and bruises, acclimation period. I still think DG and D. Mitch are still figuring out how to play with each other. I mean, both of those dudes have had the ball in their hands since they've been playing basketball, right? And now they got to share the court with someone else like that. So more repetitions on the court with each other are going to help each other out. I'm excited. I really am. I know that we're in trade talks right now for a wing defender, which will help out a ton against those Jason Tatums, those Kevin Durant's, those type of guys in the postseason. But I really like what I've seen out of the guys. Mobley, I think, is getting as the season goes on, he's getting a little bit more comfortable. D. Mitch is better than what I thought he ever was. And I know I saw him a lot in the playoffs in Utah doing his thing, rookie year, taking down Paul George and Russ. But, boy, D. Mitch is him. He what they look like, all of that. I believe he'll be an all-star starter, and if he's not, then I'll riot. I'll go out to Salt Lake City myself and do something about it. But hell of a ball player. I think he's a good leader. He represents the city well. He does a lot of stuff in the community. If y'all ain't known, he got a commercial that's taken at St. Ed's. They tried to block it out and act like you couldn't tell it was St. Ed's. But me and Croft know what St. Ed's looked like, and I was in the St. Ed's gym, all right? So he's doing a lot of the right things on and off the court. I'm really excited. Just see how the trade deadline shakes out because we just got Rubio back, so maybe some guys aren't needed as much. We'll see. I'm really excited, though. This is a good time to be a Cleveland fan for sure.
For sure. And so it's definitely a great time to be just a fan of sports in general. You got the NFL playoffs, starting up, get as currently going. And then you also got, NBA starting to pick up as well. All-Star break coming soon too. So I think it's a, perfect time to continue to just, talk sports and just continue to update you with our own opinions, our own thoughts. And just please, continue to comment, like, and share. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your support. Varsity House Podcast will definitely be coming more. We'll come in with more guests as well, featuring some big guests, in the future, having them tell their own story, giving a little inside look into their lives. And so back to, our normal schedule, what we usually do, but we will continue to just add these in weekly, as, sports pick up, as the playoffs get going. Things like that. Baseball, we won't touch on baseball. I'm gonna be honest with you right now. I don't know much about baseball. But I'm gonna get into it because we got a great baseball guest that's gonna come on in the future. So, he go if when he come on, he gonna force me to tap into baseball. But if he don't come on, we're not touching on baseball. So
I ain't gonna lie to you. I'm the most fair weather baseball fan, and I know that the Guardians have been good like the past 10 years. Look. I don't really tap in until like September, and if they're not in the playoff race, I'd never tap in. So that's how that goes.
So yeah, it'll definitely pick up. It'll be fun. We'll get some MMA stuff going here too. Obviously, big news with John Jones coming back. I think the sports need. I think the sport needed for sure. Just losing Conor, and not saying Conor is done fighting, but just losing that type of energy, that level of star. Kind of hurts a brand. And so I think, with John coming back, fighting for the heavyweight title, which is crazy. Like, it's not many people who can come back after 2-3 years. I think it's been 3 years, but not come back after that.
Yeah, his last fight was in February of 2020.
Yeah, so for you to come back after like that long and then fight for a heavyweight title, which you've never in the division you've never fought in, I mean, it's very few people, and John Jones is one of those guys. So I'm excited to see what happens on that end. But yeah, I think that's all the sports that that we know about, that we kind of care about. But
wait, real quick though, like, have you talked to anyone, like, Gane, I've watched him a couple times, and dude's a killer in the ring. Have you talked to anyone, like, how hard it is to make that jump at all? Like, or you have, like, light heavyweight to heavyweight?
Well, DC did it. DC was one of the few people who did it. And DC built weird, though. Like, he's not – John is tall. Francis is tall. Those dudes, like, look heavy. Like, I think John can put on weight easily. Like, I think he was probably, like, light heavyweight because it was probably an easier division for him, honestly. Like he just ran through the division, and he was bigger for that division. Now when he goes to be a heavyweight, I think he's just like normal. He's just a normal heavyweight, because that Gain dude is huge. Like he not small either. So I think for certain guys it may be hard, but like you look at Izzy, who tried to bump up. Adesanya, who tried to bump up a weight class, even Conor, who tried to bump up a weight class. Like, you're dominant in your normal weight class, and when you move up, you just become like, the skill's still the same, but it's just like when they get you on the mat, them punches hurt a little bit more. So it's a little different. But I mean, John is said to be the best MMA fighter of all time. Arguably one of the best. So. If anyone could do it, he could do it. And so definitely, I think that'll be exciting. We have an MMA trainer. We have Francis trainer supposed to be joining the show, in the coming weeks. So excited to hear about that, hear about what Francis is doing again. So now we're talking about MMA. Didn't expect that, but here we go. But no, continue to support, continue to tap in with us again. Like, please comment. If there's any other topics that you want us to touch on, any teams that you want us to touch on, again, baseball, be patient with us if you want us to talk about baseball, because we may be wrong, and we may have to bring in, we have to phone a friend. So like, if you feel confident enough that baseball, shoot the podcast page a DM, and we'll get you on the episode, and we'll let you take 15 minutes to yourself to talk baseball. So again, appreciate support again. Follow Varsity House Podcast on all channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all those things, even TikTok. Follow us on there. We'll post some great clips, but continue to be with us. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you again.